Per usual, living on this channel for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It is Wednesday. That means it's altcoin extravaganza day, and not too much has changed week over week. We are below the trend metrics we need to be above to be bullish. It's just that simple. It's binary. It's a yes or a no, and we are a no on the bullish front across the board. We can aggregate the market caps. We can look at total 2, for example. We're below the 200-day moving average. We're below the daily cloud. Just because we're bearish doesn't mean we go to zero. It just means going up will be harder, going down will be easier, and level set your expectations in the near term. I continue to believe Q4 is where it's at for alts. So now's just not the time. You're kind of, you're the salmon swimming upstream. You're just going to die. A bear is going to scoop you out of the stream and eat you alive, because it is very tough right now across the board to find something that is winning. So total 2, not bullish. Total 2 over BTC, which is essentially inverse BTC dominance, also remains bearish still. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks. It's been years of chop. This has not made a higher high since 2021. The good news is we are getting closer. For you altcoin fanatics, we are getting closer to something maybe happening. The first step is going in the cloud flipping bearish, and then that's the bear trend. We're living the bear trend. We've lived the bear trend for a couple of years, and there is a setup potentially into Q4 where we start to bottom out and find strength relative to BTC. Potentially. There's no promise there, but the cloud's going to let you know. The moment we're above the 3-day cloud, I will be so excited for all the altcoin holders, but we're not there yet. We're just not there. So trend is still against you relative to BTC strength. And then if we look at global liquidity, US liquidity still ranging, global liquidity also still ranging in the green there, and Bitcoin also struggling relatively to legacy. So it's just still not the time. It's not like I come out here thinking, man, can't wait to give everyone bad news, but there just isn't a lot of arguments for strength, technicals, fundamentals, liquidity. Not yet. Not yet. Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures, Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. A few things I do like. I've mentioned this type of price action fractal before, where we get this sort of parabolic puke to the downside. I don't know what volume actually looks like, but ideally you see volume spiking towards the end of this. We sort of saw that, not really. But this is the typical high inflation, high unlocks, just people selling because they can. Very difficult to make a new higher high. So down here across the board, we have this opportunity for something small, maybe a triple bottom, maybe a range, something. This is like the first attempt since this initial level where a lot of alts were ranging from April to June, but we're so not there yet as far as what you'd like to see. What you really want to see is strength at the neckline here, consolidation at the neckline. This is just sort of a proxy for alts across the board. And there's a little bit of that going on with BTC. This isn't a call. We're still early. The decision tree is a forest. Different trees, weeds, bark, walnuts on the ground, all sorts of stuff going on, right? We've got CPI on Thursday. We'll probably see a pop in price because risk assets will likely enjoy a lower CPI. But for trend metrics, still below the 200-day moving average, still below the daily cloud, still below the 20-week moving average. Best case scenario is we get a similar inverted head and shoulders fractal over the next couple weeks here. And for me, that's the best time to take the next trade. So that's going to be a long time from now. If this resumes bearishness, if this continues to collapse, then we're talking 50s, 40s, mid 40s, I think at the lowest, but that's still on the table. That's not completely gone yet. And I think you have to take that seriously if you are looking at alts here, because if BTC moves from 60 to 50, I can't imagine alts doing too well with that information. The German selling is almost done. We still have GOX to deal with. Will it be a nothing burger? Potentially. Will that be fits and stops and 90 days of mayhem? I don't know. It could be anything. We don't know. We really don't know. It's been a decade, right? Like a lot of people probably selling. We've got claims to be sold. We've got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts there, and it's just too hard to predict what exactly is going to happen. So a lot of people are just going to wait and see. There's just a lot of uncertainty in the market, and you're seeing that in altcoins as well. ETH has a ETF approval coming up likely next week or the week after, eventually sooner rather than later. An ETF will get approved and will launch. Will that be enough for ETH to pull up the market? Will that be enough for ETH BTC to take off? I personally don't think so. I think the ETH unlock initially will take at least a month, just like the BTC unlock for GBTC. Doesn't mean we have to go to zero. I just think it's going to be challenging. It's going to be a headwind for price initially. ETH also below all of the trend metrics it needs to be above. Down here is the 200-week moving average. This would be the bear case if things get bearish. I just don't see a trade for me here personally. You could say, well, I want to speculate on bullishness for the ETFs initially. That's fine, I guess, but trend metrics are not on your side here. And there's a possibility where this thing just ranges into Q4. Potentially, we just do nothing. But I think any CPI spike will get sold down. I think any ETF approval candle will get sold down. I think there's a lot of overhead supply waiting to sell. Looking at ETH BTC, I like this setup in Q4. I do not like this setup here. This is the 3-day cloud. Pick anything. Pick any high time frame trend metric. It'll tell you we are almost there. We are almost to the point where there is a reasonable trade setup here. If you are certain and you are bullish ETH BTC, you're just accumulating. Who cares, right? But what you certainly don't want to see is anything to the lower end of 0.5. The more we can chop sideways on ETH BTC, if you're bullish ETH BTC, the more we can stay closer to 0.6, the higher the likelihood that this pushes to 0.7. Timing-wise, Q4 makes the most sense based on where the price sits currently. And the target is in alignment with VPVR volume resistance based on 2021, 2022, and 2023. That's where most of the volume sat at the 0.7 level. So you can think logically it makes sense. ETH hasn't had an ETF. Now it's going to get one. Should be bullish. Okay. That is a trade to take, but the fundamentals are not quite in alignment with the technicals yet, in my opinion. So I think it's going to take a little more time on ETH BTC. For SOL, similar story here. We are slightly above the 200-day moving average, still below the 20-week moving average, still below the daily cloud. We still have a potential very large head and shoulders fractal. There's also a similar triangle to ETH up here. So the path this could take is still very wide and vast. Again, if BTC breaks down, none of these are going to survive. Everything's going to get dragged down with it somewhat at the very least. You could say, well, there's a little bit of a W double bottom here. Okay. We start to get above the cloud, like 160. I'm with you. I just think it's better to wait. It's better to wait. We don't have what we had in going into Q4 last year. You can't see it. It's off the chart, but going into Q4, we had the opposite of what we have now. We had a massive inverted head and shoulders pattern. We just don't have that here. We don't really have anything to suggest continuation at this moment. So the bullish conviction here is very, very soft. Looking at SOL BTC, same thing. We're below-ish the daily cloud. We're struggling above the moving averages. We're getting potentially a 140-200 cross, which is the opposite of what we saw at the bottom. Here's that inverted head and shoulders. Again, it's like there's none of this here, right? None of this is here now. Potentially a massive triangle, potentially a massive head and shoulders. There's just a lot of questions that need to be answered first. Like if we start to make higher highs, sure. If you're convinced, go for it. But I don't quite think we're there yet, personally. And the question is, what is your time horizon for all these trades? Is it this month, this quarter, next year? That's going to influence all these decisions. I just think your money's better off elsewhere, where there's a little bit more certainty relative to what's going on in crypto. BNB made its journey on the edge to the downside, slightly above the 200-day, still below the cloud. Right? None of this is above. None of this is we've got a pattern, we've got a multi-month, blah, 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 right? And we don't have any of that here. So yes, this could be the bottom. I don't think that necessarily It will be, but it could be, sure. I don't see a trade setup here on BNB. I don't see a trade setup on Ton either, although it looks much more bullish than most everything. It's holding within this channel here. It is trying to stay above the cloud. It has done a good job of being uncorrelated to everything. So if I had to pick anything that's bullish on trend, it'd be this. It's just how much longer can this thing hold up? It's already up 3x since March, right? Maybe it needs to take a breather here. ADA below cloud, below trend metrics. Death cross on the 140-200. Has a massive head and shoulders it was dealing with, almost to that target. And it's just not, it's not the time. It's just not the time. This could triple bottom out here, but I really don't see a trade for this until sub 30 cents or probably into Q4 when we get into the cloud again. And ideally, you want to set yourself up for things that we saw in Q4 last year, where the cloud flattened out, price flattened out, and then this becomes an easy trend long trade. We're just not there yet. We're just not there yet. Nothing looks bad enough to buy. Tron is another one. I don't think this market is quote unquote real. Okay, it's traded in a few places. It's held this trend channel. It looks fine. But you just got to be careful because I'm not sure how many real people are trading Tron. AVAX similar to ADA. Doesn't quite look bad enough yet. Hasn't quite reached the targets. Realistically, if we do get bearish, anything that broke out in Q4 last year will retrace to that level. And we're just not there yet. So nothing on this chart looks good to me whatsoever. DOT, same thing. Same story. You know, I thought I'd look at these L1s today individually and none of them look compelling to me. I think the earliest you'd want to touch any of these would be the Q4 equivalent when we got the bullish TK cross with price and cloud. We're not seeing that. We're so far away from that. That's coming in August at the earliest if we stay sideways. So it just needs more time. More time to chop around. Link also does not look bullish to me. I mean, look, it's what it is, right? Until we're above 19 on Link or sub 10, there just isn't a trade for me if there is a bearish chart pattern fractal. So no strength on Link either. And then 6 of these lower market cap coins struggling at their lows, struggling in their multi-year range, potentially eventually setting up for something. Q1, Q2 didn't work out so hot. Maybe Q4, maybe 2025, Q2, 3, 4, right? You just really have to be patient if you're a flow fan. If you're a flow fan and you believe in it, God bless you, right? But you got to be mindful of the inflation. You got to be mindful of the unlocks. Charts like these could take a very long time to play out. And the one thing you don't want to ever see with anything like these charts as you're accumulating is an exchange delisting these coins. So you always have to be careful about that. Looking at the meme coins, really nothing here either. Everything is bearish, below trend metrics. Bonk has bounced a little bit. There's not a trade anywhere for me. With back at lows, everything here looks very rangy, very neutral or bearish, and nothing is above any trend metric where you'd want to take a trade. It's just a much different environment from February, March, April than it is now. And then lastly, I thought I'd mention the meme portfolio again, just because if you are a believer in whatever coin or stack of coins, this is how I would go about it. I would do a blind weekly DCA on a group of coins that I like. You know, some people like AVAX, fine. Some people like Say, Ton, whatever. Okay. But I back weighted this for August, September, October because I didn't think at the time, this was April that I started this thing, I didn't think at the time we would be ready to take off just yet until we got into Q4. So if there is more downside or if there is more chop, you certainly want to wait to keep buying. And if you're in this DCA plan, you want to hope for lows. You want to hope for extreme death, despair, right? We're not quite there yet. So as far as being on 7/8/2024, you're still 83% in cash here, and you're still getting a 5% yield on this. So it strengthens your DCA down the road the lower this stuff goes. So I don't hate having a plan like this. Just have a plan, whatever it is. You know, if it's levels, if it's weekly DCA, if it's 5 coins instead of 10, if it's 50 coins instead of 10, whatever. Have a plan and stick to it. Be prepared for potential total loss. You know, let's say these coins get delisted or whatever, or go to zero, right? Potentially, who knows? Have a plan, stick to it, but right now is just not the time to expect a massive bullish rally, massive bullish continuation. And on that happy note, that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.